Well, hey there, Land Trust members. On Thursday, July 7th, the Land Trust of Santa Cruz County hosted a Tunnels and Tracking event to provide you with an inside look at the science behind our wildlife connectivity work and the crossings in development under Highway 17 and coming soon over Highway 101. The event took place at Campo de Bocce and featured a panel of 3 field specialists: Chris Wilmers of the UCSC Puma Project, Ahiga Snyder of Pathways for Wildlife, and Juliana Khalil of Virtual Planet. We are excited to share these highlights of the panel, and don't forget to check out the live Q&A to see if any of your questions were answered. And now, Land Trust Executive Director Sarah Newkirk will introduce the panel and get us started.
I want to welcome you to our Tunnels and Tracking event tonight here in Campo de Bocce, not in Santa Cruz County, but in Santa Clara County. But many of you probably crossed the Laurel Curve project on your way over the hill to come here tonight. I am really excited about this event tonight because it is an exploration of the science that was the foundation of the Laurel Curve wildlife crossing under Highway 17. And I am a science groupie. I am married to a scientist, and I like to surround myself with scientists. I read science all the time, and I can't get enough of it. I like to apply science to everything I do in my work. But it's also a celebration, right? The fact that we have broken ground on the Laurel Curve project is a pretty monumental accomplishment. And so, okay, now we have science. I also love celebrations. Science plus celebration plus wildlife. Right? We're getting to like a desert island scenario that I'm really comfortable with. It doesn't get any better than this. And we have something really big to celebrate tonight because the Laurel Curve project is underway and it will be completed in fall, according to Caltrans and our contractors, Granite Rock. Our friend from Granite Rock, Rachel Reed, is here tonight, and I hope that you'll say hello to her because they've been very helpful. This is not a piece of human infrastructure. This is going to be a piece of wildlife infrastructure that will be critical to the wildlife superhighway that traverses the Santa Cruz Mountains and allows our mountain lions, our bobcats, our deers, our foxes, and other wildlife to get around. But this is a story with a lot of characters, right? The wildlife couldn't do this for themselves. We've taken away that opportunity. And so we need to bring together an incredible coalition of powerful partners, starting with the Land Trust, but also with Caltrans, the Regional Transportation Commission, Granite Rock. But it all started with the science, right, Chris? The science told us where the wildlife crossing needed to be. And I'm going to let the experts explain that to you, and I'm not going to talk about that. But I do want to say that the science did not tell us how to do the crossing, right? How to create infrastructure where there was no infrastructure before. And this is a story that started after the science in 2009, but in 2014, when the Land Trust took a fairly gigantic leap. And we did that leap because we had the theory that if we were able to control land on both sides of Highway 17, Caltrans would have one less thing to object to, one less thing to worry about, right? And so if we were able to gather up enough control over the land on either side of Route 17, we would be able to convince the Caltrans to put that infrastructure in. And since then, we've acquired over 700 acres on either side of the highway. But controlling the land was necessary, but it wasn't sufficient to get the project done. We needed our passionate local politicians, people like John Laird and Mark Stone, who were going to put the agency's feet to the fire, really, because it required Caltrans to agree with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and we needed them to agree on funding and incentives, and these important local officials, elected officials, really put those agencies' feet to the flames on behalf of this project. And the funding mechanism that they developed in putting the project together, this was a mitigation credit trade, and you don't need to know the details of that, but what you need to understand is that it worked so well that the state legislature wrote and passed a law that enacts that credit trading arrangement and puts it into law and allows other groups to use it around the state of California. So that was SB 790, and that was a wonderful. So often more to be said about funding and partnerships. You know, the RTC has been, the Regional Transportation Commission has been a tremendous supporter the entire time. We have the original Measure D, not the current one, but the original Measure D that provided tremendous local support and really indicated the Santa Cruz County's population support for wildlife crossings and other infrastructure projects. But most importantly, you all helped in making this project a reality. So with that, I want to introduce our panel. I'm going to introduce them. They're each going to say some awesome words because they're scientists and they know what they're talking about. But I want you to hold your questions to the end. I want them to be able to get through their remarks, and then we'll have some time for Q&A and some less formal interaction afterwards. So let me start by introducing Chris Wilmers, wildlife ecologist and head of the Santa Cruz Puma Project. The Puma Project is a partnership between UCSC and the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and their work involves deploying telemetry collars on mountain lions that collect continuous movement and location data from each animal. By studying and analyzing data collected from these collars, Dr. Wilmers and his team hope to answer important physiological and ecological questions that have so far evaded science. In addition to providing solutions to pressing environmental problems, the research further enhances the understanding of cougar habitat requirements, as well as provide guidance on important movement corridors for lions within and between the Santa Cruz Mountains. After Chris, you'll hear from wildlife researcher Ahiga Roger-Snyder, who is one of the co-founders of Pathways for Wildlife, a research organization specializing in identifying, monitoring, and implementing connectivity designs for wildlife movement within a landscape. Their research and work involves creating wildlife linkage designs through surveys and GIS analysis, and working closely with land use planners to help inform them of conservation strategies. They collaborate with conservation organizations such as land trusts and transportation agencies to acquire funding and install wildlife crossing structures and to preserve habitats within linkage areas that wildlife are using. And lastly, we'll hear from Giuliano Khalil of Virtual Planet Technologies. Giuliano is a scientist and data expert with a PhD in ocean science and coastal adaptation. Virtual Planet is a social impact company that leverages the latest technologies and effective creative storytelling to help the world better understand the imminent impacts of climate change, as well as visualize practical solutions. Through powerful digital experiences, their aim is to educate, drive action, and inspire hope in the future of our planet.